Let me get my headset hooked up here. All right, can you hear me?
Yep, sound good.
Okay, cool.
Cool. Let me connect people. All right, so what's going on in Nick's corner of the universe?
Hey. Yeah, I seem to be doing really well over here. I started reading Schrodinger and Carl Jung, like some of their original works. And I've listened to so many, analysis and synthesis and like modern interpretations of their work,
Sure,
and it's
sure.
so far off from, now I shouldn't say off, but like there's so much missing from modern interpretations.
Yeah.
And so there's something quite beautiful about just reading, or I'm listening to it on Audibles, listening to, the original writing and what they're attempting to describe. And I'm like listening to the Red Book right now, Carl Jung's Red Book. And the whole time I'm listening to this, I'm like, this is the same thing I'm trying to do right now. Like the whole process that he went through of exploring, the internal world and making comparisons to, like as he starts to let his subconscious come forth, he's starting to feel insane at times and think he's insane. And he's, making the claim that, like, I think the difference between an insane person that we put in a ward and an insane person out in the street is, and the thing I'm doing, the only difference is that I'm integrating the work and actually making it fit with, concrete reality.
Yeah.
Whereas the person in the world, they can't make the distinction, and they fight it. And then, or I guess not necessarily even in the ward, but like somebody who we would label as dysfunctional. There's something very stabilizing about listening to the book, and it's obviously so much to do with a lot of the work we're doing.
Yeah.
I know Carl was very interested, if not well read, on Jung's work. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's bringing a lot of stability for me, like especially over the last week. It's just bringing like that, like, oh, this isn't just, because sometimes it's hard to stabilize what we're doing because it's so out there compared to the norm.
Sure.
Even though I know it does it, like it's like I've experienced everything this work does hands-on, and there's nothing else I've done that's better.
It's real. You've had your own experience,
it's real,
right?
I fucking touched it, like, so I can't
it can't be a hard, it can certainly be a challenge to integrate.
Yeah,
because we have a lot less cultural reference points than with most things.
Exactly. And so it's a little challenging in that way, in that, like, the stuff my friends are doing is popular, and like it's talked about in TED Talks and stuff like that, and consistent, and it's like generally well accepted by like a group, like scientific community. Or people are doing studies on this kind of, seemingly doing studies on this kind of stuff. And so it's a little bit like, it makes me feel like a little bit of an outsider. But then when I start listening to, Jung's work and realizing, like, oh, this guy, like, he's the reason most of our understanding in psychology is the way it is now. And this is why. It's like we're going more to the source than these extrapolated interpretations of his work.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really cool. You're looking, it's cool you're looking at the original source, because things do get to be lost and misinterpreted over time.
For sure.
I actually learned a lot by reading some of L. Ron Hubbard's original work. And the guy was a nut and a criminal, but some of their processes are quite powerful. So, I wouldn't talk about that very much publicly, because I want nothing to do with Scientology or any of the evil bullshit they do, right?
Oh, got it. Yeah.
As even Scientologists that have been in for a long time will tell you that when L. Ron Hubbard stepped back and Davis Miscavige took over, the quality went, because it became really about building the cult.
Yeah.
Yeah. L. Ron Hubbard was kind of parallel. Let's actually help people and build a cult. And they kind of gave up on helping people.
I got that impression from some of, I was kind of surprised in something like that too, is that Jung was very curious about like mediums and
Mhm.
You know, a lot of like what like what's going, like he was basically just asking the question, like what's happening when people are doing that, is it like a real thing? And it's quite fascinating, quite so, you know, trying to synthesize what's going on in the subconscious, trying to understand what's going on, how this stuff actually presents and works and functions, and how does it relate to, you know, our consciousness.
Yeah.
And basically describing it as a relationship. Like it's you know, he was building over a couple of years, you know, in 1913, is building a relationship with his subconscious and allowing his subconscious to start to build a deeper and more satisfying relationship with the environment.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that's so interesting, this is a very recent brain discovery, is that when we retrieve things from memory and think about it, you know, talk about it, write about it, whatever, it's basically, it's not like we're taking a copy of what's in memory. It's like it gets taken out completely, and then we work with it, and then we store it again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's what's so interesting, as a memory that's been accessed a lot, you would think would be more reliable, but it's turned out to be the exact opposite.
Yeah, it gets changed more.
Yes, that a memory that you've
right.
recalled and used many times will subtly change over time, like a game of telephone.
That's awesome.
And
Yeah,
this can also happen with, if you look at analysis of works such as Jung's, which is what, 100 years old now, something like that.
Yep.
That so many people have read it and looked at it. Every time you take it out and look at it and put it back, it gets modified, and you don't realize it.
Mm-hmm.
So each generation can certainly, if it's done well, add more insight, value, context. Yes, but more often than not, things tend to degrade over time.
Yeah.
If we look at the Bible, some of the studies of the Bible, I think, are really interesting, because as we occasionally discover older and different copies of the scriptures, they're radically different than what we've gotten used to. Like in the, you know, again, don't say this too loud, especially in Texas, but the oldest versions we have of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, there is no mention, not a hint of the resurrection. That was added like 800 years after he died. Now, again, I wasn't there. I can't say for sure it didn't happen, right?
Right.
What you know for certain is the earliest versions we have of those works, there is not a mention or a hint of it. And then we look at, you know, 300 years later, or whatever it is, and it's been added in. So again, I don't know. What does it mean? I wasn't there. I can't say, right? But it's very interesting how the brain works in that way. Yeah. Because it's just, to me, it's wild, because one would have expected the exact opposite. That something you're referencing and using like every day, you would tend to burn it in, it would become more reliable. But no, sometimes if you haven't touched a memory for decades, it will be more accurate than the ones you're constantly recalling. Mm-hmm. Fascinating, huh? Yes. So these people that are, you know, dealing with Jungian's work, writing about it, blah, 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 many of them have unknowingly mutated. They're playing a game of telephone. Yeah, especially if they're getting it from like secondhand sources from their instructors at a university, or from like a book of analysis or something like that. Then they're already 2-3 people removed, right? Assuming that, you know, and I think the assumption is that, oh, the more modern person's interpretation is going to be, you know, more accurate and better. And I don't know, it's always, it's not always true. The case or true. Sometimes, you know? It is. Sometimes we have no choice. Like my study on non-duality, I really don't have the resources to go spend 5 years learning to read Sanskrit. Right. That'd be cool, right? If I was retired or independently wealthy, that'd be a fun thing to do, right? But I'm a little busy. So I'm stuck with English translations and more modern masters, right? Yeah. But in that case, the sort of the balancing impact is my direct personal experience with it. Mm. That working with Carl especially, I got reference points into my own experience that allowed me to have a connection more to the truth, not just through a first or second hand account, but a zero hand account, right? Yeah. So I think if we can put it all together, we can stay pretty connected and things can evolve. But we want to just think of everything as a game of telephone, including our own brain. I mean, what do you think Jesus would think of what has happened with the Christian church? Mm. I think he'd be kind of horrified. I mean, I don't know, right? Don't know the
Yeah.
guy. But if you looked at, like, the Inquisition and the using religion to justify the genocide of the Native American population, I mean, all this stuff, right? Somehow I'm not sure he'd be okay with that.
Yeah,
There
maybe
was
not.
there was I think it was a Time magazine article in the late 70s. It was really controversial because they had interviewed 10,000 people or something and asked them a simple question. If Jesus were alive today, would he be a Republican or a Democrat?
Yeah.
And it's, whatever we may think is what you think, but the fact is almost all the Christians, all the nutty Christians are in the right way and live lifestyles that are completely the opposite of what Jesus taught. So again, I don't know the guy, right? Before my time. But it's really cool you're reading that stuff. It gives you a different angle into it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, some of it's moldy and has been disproven or we found better, right? So, that happens too. That Jung wrote the best he could at the time. For example, the primitive of the brain was, their understanding of the brain was primitive compared to what we have now, even though what we have now is still relatively primitive, right?
Yep. Yep.
So of course, some of the ideas and theories were going the wrong way, right?
Yeah.
But that's okay. Not everything Einstein proposed worked either.
Right. It's funny. I just watched Oppenheimer, and the movie that just came out.
How was it?
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
I'd like to see it. I may go alone because, well, let's just say things aren't good here, and I could use being in the darkness, watching something dark for a couple hours on my own.
Yeah, it's still really good, and it's quite beautiful. There's like there's a character for Einstein in it, and this is an era where after Einstein was disproven, not disproven. Like his theories are so functional and they're beautiful in a way. Still very useful, but
we just
they
found
just
they
don't
weren't
go
perfect.
all the way.
Right.
Yeah.
They weren't perfect.
Yep.
Newton's theories weren't perfect either.
Right.
But I consider him one of the greatest geniuses that's ever walked the planet.
Yeah.
And the dude invented
make the next
mathematical physics. Oh my God. Right.
Yeah.
And you can't expect people to know things they had no ability to discern.
Yep.
Right. I didn't expect Newton to know how many moons that Saturn actually has.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
There were hundreds of years from a spacecraft, right?
Yeah.
We thought Saturn had 10 moons up until Voyager. That was 1976 or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, it's got like 60. So
yeah.
Have you seen the best image of Pluto through the Hubble?
No, I don't think I have.
It's like 6 pixels.
Oh, really?
Yep. Even with the Hubble, it's like 6 pixels.
I wonder if they're going to get an image with James Webb.
Well, we sent the probe there, so
yeah,
almost everything we know about Pluto came from. We had to literally send something.
Probe past it.
Yep.
Okay.
But yeah, people go, oh, it's like, yeah, we have the Hubble. I've seen the image. It's like 6 blurry pixels.
That's amazing.
So what's been
going on?
Didn't
we have to like infer that it was there because there were some odd orbital paths?
Yep.
We could never see it, right?
It was one of my ancestors that theorized its existence.
Nice.
Though he never found it, but his apprentice did.
That's cool.
So what's going on else in Nick world?
Yeah, as far as like I've been just like sticking with specifically feeling behind me.
Okay, good.
I did a little bit of like a context, like a writing review of like what was consistent as far as I can remember, at least, about every time I had like a really nice breakthrough of feeling, and every single one except for one directly. I think it was indirectly. It was the only one was the one with Brian, but they were having me feel my back a lot more. So I wasn't necessarily doing it myself. They were just constantly tapping my back and saying, oh, remember to feel the back of your legs. Remember to feel the back.
It helps for sure.
It does. But other than that, like every time I've broken through the veil and gotten into like a really deep, visceral, sensorily connected moment of presence or a day or a couple hours has been from witnessing more of the information behind me. And so I thought, you know what, it fucking sucks because it's like the most boring aspect of the thing I could do. And it's just like, it takes a while, nothing happens. But if I do just kind of sit with it, it seems to happen. It's just kind of vague. And, like I've been pretty consistent with that. And so I'm starting to get a little bit more. And like, even this morning, waking up, I thought like, I could feel quite a bit more of what was going on behind me and in my spine, especially. And I could feel like the bracing. I could feel just this consistent bracing against reality of just like trying so hard to just hold on. And I was slightly out of it. So I was slightly out of the bracing. So it was like, instead of 100% bracing, I couldn't see anything. It was just like 80% bracing. So I could actually tell that I was bracing, rather than just be like the ocean I'm swimming in.
Okay, good.
And so I think I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to keep going that direction because that seems to be for me the most fruitful, the most fruitful.
Okay. Awesome.
I think
Fruity's good.
Yes.
Carl would be proud. We're aiming at the direction of maximum fruitiness.
Maximum fruitiness. That's cool. Yeah. And so like, it seems to have a pretty strong impact on the environment, like people around me as well. So it's like, it seems to be very, even if not a lot, even if I can't tell much of what's happening, it seems to be very calming for everybody around me. It seems to be like, it makes me, I'm like having an easier time laughing, like jokes are funnier to me and stuff like that. So there's definitely something happening. So I might just want to move around in that and then just get a little feedback.
Yeah, let's do it.
Kind of hang out with it. Let me get my camera switched over here. Oh, it's such a drastic shift in video quality. And so a lot of what I've been doing, especially over the last 4 days, has been specifically like not trying to feel too much of what's in front of me, because it seems like if I try to feel what's in front of me, there's a wall. And instead feel like, where can I feel? And I tend to be able to feel like right about here. It's like, it's a little easier for me to like start feeling the body and space.
Yeah, I can see that. That's a little weird, but
yeah.
Your hands there's more stuff around them out there than in closer.
Yeah. And so I'm just kind of like, okay, well, if that's where I can feel, then let me find feeling.
Yeah.
And then it seems like, especially if there's not too much going on, it seems like the more that I feel out here, it comes a little closer. And then I can start to like allow what's going on there to happen in front as well. And I start to get chills through my body. So there's there's definitely like a fear of being swallowed. But
I mean, what I see is right when you start to bend your arms in, I feel fear.
Yeah.
It's
interesting. I was hanging out with Nicole last night and I was definitely in this the whole time. And, we stopped and we're grabbing some fruit and, she had said something and then I was like looking into her eyes and then she was like, oh, you look afraid to say that. And I was like, oh, she's like, are you afraid of me or something like that? And I was like, oh, I don't think I'm afraid of you. I think I'm actually just afraid, like, to be alive right now.
Yeah.
Kind of fascinating. Yeah.
I mean, what it makes me think of, did you ever do CrossFit or the Olympic lifting?
Okay.
Did you ever do CrossFit and the Olympic lifting?
I've done Olympic lifting since I was like 20. Okay. Like those are my main lifts, but I've never competed or anything, but those are.
So it's just in terms of the body position, that when your body's kind of locked out and everything's lined up, you feel very strong, right?
Yeah.
Like, the top of a thrust or whatever, right?
Yeah.
What it looks like is when your arms are bent, when you're losing that kind of maximum lineup and leverage, It's like you feel like you've lost some of your power or something like that. It's like, oh geez, I'm not as strong here. It's kind of the sense.
Okay, yeah. It feels
Which
right.
on a physical level is true,
Yeah.
right? You know, when you have everything lined up and locked out, then you're very solid. You couldn't stand there with, 200 pounds over your head for more than a split second if you weren't lining up the tissue underneath, right?
Yes. Yes.
You couldn't have your arms halfway.
Yeah,
No
it
one
is.
could do
It is
that.
kind of nice. I can like press something up and then just hold it there for a
Yeah,
while. It's
exactly.
pretty easy. Yeah.
So it's like you like being in that locked out position because it makes you stronger.
Yep.
Okay, you stayed a little more in the energy on that one. Yeah, it's interesting. Your left hand is better connected today. Do you have a sense of that?
Yeah.
Okay, if you look in the video, you see how your left hand looks bigger.
Oh, yep.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Your left arm looks a little longer and your left hand looks bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that.
And with you and me, it is a little challenging because we both have so many freaking injuries that they do distort a little bit,
Yeah.
but just a little bit. But when you know what to look for, you can kind of see past it. Yeah, the fingers on your left hand look very relaxed, more present, just kind of chill, being in the moment. In your right hand, there's some anxiety. It's a little afraid.
Yeah, I think the anxiety is a physical. It's just like I think it has to do with injuries because the feeling I'm getting is just like curling up into a ball and just being tossed on the ground or something like that, hitting the ground a bunch of times.
Yeah, your right hand has the sense of just kind of wanting to curl up and hide a little
Yeah.
bit,
Yeah.
go into protect mode.
Yep.
You can even see it physically where your left hand, your fingers are more relaxed, more extended,
Uh-huh.
and your right,
Oh, yeah.
your fingers are more curled.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean a lot on its own. It's more the energy that comes off.
Yep. It's funny, 5 years ago, I came to Austin. I was hanging out with these crowds of people or like groups of people that would like talk about, people getting triggered and having trauma and stuff like that. And I was like, what the heck are you guys talking about? This is so stupid. Like, get over yourselves. You know, and basically just because I've been through so much shit. I've been in so
Right.
many, wrecks and accidents and broken bones and, childhood and all that kind of stuff. And so it's just like, oh, you guys are just being little bitches, like
Right.
shut the fuck up. And like to be consistently diving deeper into that and realize that like, yeah, like I had a mental model to take me out of the dysfunction of like poor me, but like
Right.
it's
you had a
clearly
valuable
is still
coping
affecting.
mechanism. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's still clearly affecting,
Yeah, you
my
you
body's
were
expression.
judging them for not having built up as functional a coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
That's okay, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There was more to it than you saw at the moment, but that's true of almost everything in life, isn't it?
Like, guys, shut the fuck up and learn to dissociate. Come on.
Yeah,
Do a better
exactly.
job.
It's like you're there soaking wet and everyone else is bitching about getting, a few drops of water on
Yeah. Yeah.
them. It's like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, I look back at my first marriage and oh my God, there was so much going on that we were both totally blind to.
Yeah.
Okay, this is very interesting. Yeah, do you see the disconnection where it is?
Not clearly, no.
It's in your upper arms, more on the right than the left. Kind of roughly your upper arm where your t-shirt covers it.
Oh, yep, I can feel that. There's like a nausea that comes up when I go
Yeah,
into it. Yeah.
there's a little bit on the left, but it's much more vivid it's more vivid on the right. And
Yeah,
it does have
I'm worried about my shoulders getting pulled out of the socket because that happens so many times.
Yeah, there's a little
Ugh.
boy energy coming
Oh,
up.
yep. Mm.
Yeah. I'm seeing like little 5, 6, 7-year-old Nick.
Yep.
And you're trying hard to do the right thing.
Yeah.
You're trying to be good and stand up straight or do your own work, eat your vegetables, right?
Yeah.
But, yeah, you're feeling it more there.
Yep.
I mean, I'm feeling the anxiety, so I think you're going through it.
Yeah.
I'm like, that doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
But that's not mine. Don't worry, I got fun in my own anxiety.
Oh, I know.
We are abundant.
Yeah. There's some abundance in our life, right?
Yeah. I used to open my sessions with Jim Druber. He'd ask me, Brent, what's something you're grateful for? I'm like, Jim, I'm grateful. I have such an abundance of opportunities for freedom. Because that's kind of our euphemism for suffering.
Nice.
There's truth to it.
Opportunities for freedom.
Yeah. Every ounce of suffering is an opportunity for freedom. Good. I can see you're maturing a little bit here. And I mean, don't take this the wrong way. I think you're still learning to live in your body.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
I mean, I am
Yeah.
too, right? It's not a matter of age.
It's funny. I go to I go to the hippie ecstatic dances and stuff like that, and some of the group stuff, because still something about the culture is doing something for me, I guess.
Yeah, there is something to it for sure.
Yeah, and and like the people I talk to there, they're like, "You're the most grounded person. You're the most grounded person I know," and I'm like, I'm not that grounded. Like, I'm not that grounded at all. But
Yeah, well,
in that room, in that group of people, like, it totally makes sense, or like, I'm the most embodied. Like, I've also been told I'm the most embodied. I'm like, duh. Well, you need to come hang out, in a sports arena, because
I felt like a giant in Japan.
Hmm.
No, I was really self-conscious on the subway in Tokyo because I'm like taking up more space than like 5 Japanese people, right? They're all just tiny, especially the older generation. The younger generation is much closer in size to Westerners.
How does that? Is that just like nutrition, you
Yeah,
think?
it's just diet.
Jeez.
Yeah, they started more meat, more dairy products.
Just more calories, probably. Even,
Yeah,
right?
so just more protein. As a child, I think it's that simple.
For sure.
At least people I've talked to that know more about this than me, that's their, yeah, it's just, after World War II, the diet started slowly changing and slowly Americanizing.
Nice.
And it's, narrowed much of the gap in size. A lot of people don't realize that, the average height of a man was in Europe during the Middle Ages.
Like 5.5 feet, or
5'1" to 5'2".
what?
Yep, they were tiny.
Holy shit.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
There were larger men, but it was unusual.
Yeah.
And mostly the nobility, the wealthy.
Right.
But same thing. Growing up, you had lots of protein.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why if you look at like Tolkien and other writings that are influenced with that theme, often the bigger men are venerated as more powerful, wiser, natural leaders. And today that makes no sense, but back then it's like, yeah, he had better nutrition.
Yep.
So he is not only a more capable warrior, but a more capable leader, scholar, blah, 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 because he had more fat, more protein, brain better developed, right?
Yeah. Wow.
And then part of what the knights also was the armor they wore compressed their spine. So they'd start wearing armor around 12, 13, and that would compress their spine and they would not grow to their full height.
Fucking wild, man.
Yeah.
All this crazy stuff we do to ourselves.
Good. You've made peace with some of it.
Yep.
I can still see the there's a bit of an energy hole, but you're not self-conscious about it. It's not bothering you as much. You're like the bald guy at the bar that's no longer trying to hide his lack of hair.
Yeah. What is my lack of thing though that I'm like, what, like, is there an actual parallel?
Let me see if I can get a sense of what's missing. What is that? Yeah, the word that comes to me right away is strength.
Mm.
It's like man strength.
Uh-huh.
That you're, something again, and you may have very strong shoulders now, but it's almost like the difference between boy strength and man strength.
Uh-huh.
I think that's part of what I was seeing in the little boy.
Okay, yeah.
Which, watching my son in puberty, it's pretty amazing how much stronger he's gotten just in the last year. More athletic, right?
Yep. Yep.
Body proportions are different.
Ah, that's interesting. I stopped doing anything athletic at that age range. Like I had already been so. Why would I? I think it must have just been my dad or something. Like I think I was feeling like I was supposed to be keeping up with him or one of his older sons.
Mhm.
And they had us competing. They had us competing with boys that were 4 or 6 years older than us in the football practices too. So like maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. It might also just be like inexperience. It felt like I felt generally inexperienced compared to everybody else.
Yeah.
It's like we were so isolated.
But your right shoulder is starting to move a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting how your left shoulder moves more easily.
Yeah, it feels a lot more comfortable.
Part of that could be injuries. That's natural.
Yeah.
And if you're right-handed,
Yeah.
it's very normal, especially if you spend a lot of time on computers. The traps, the SCM, all this in here tends to shorten over time.
Yeah.
And has
this is starting to feel nice and like a
Yeah.
warm bath down here. Like and it's coming up. It's like my arms are like drinking it up. Yeah.
Yeah. But can you notice how there's a sense of it's out there and I'm back here? You can kind of have to reach to feel it.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I feel that.
And that's okay.
So it hasn't filled up behind me yet. It's starting to come in.
Yep, exactly. Ideally, it'll feel like you're immersed in it.
Yes. Yeah.
But now you're kind of waiting
This is
around
nice
it.
then. Okay, cool. This is like the beginning of a feeling. I've been sad that it hasn't come back, but I think I told you about this, but I was at a ISTA conference and everybody was doing this exercise. It's very, very like a very intimate exercise. And I was like, hey, I'm actually not going to do that. And luckily ended up partnered with a woman who was also not interested in doing it. So, fate kind of worked out for both of us.
Yeah. That's good.
And instead just did like more of like a chest massage and a belly massage. And this woman was just like very witchy, but like very, very grounded, very present, like not like crazy witchy, but like just very like, holy shit, she can see something. And she said, you're allowed to enjoy this, right? And it just, something snapped as soon as she said that. Something like my belly just opened up and all of a sudden I just got flooded with warmth. I felt warm, like all the joint pain and stuff like that I normally deal with was just gone.
Yeah.
And I felt like, oh, I can go fucking do anything right now. This feels really nice. And that stayed with me. Oh, it's kind of coming up. And that stayed with me for, like an hour and a half, I think. I had like really, really clear internal visuals, like I could see animals. I could see myself playing. I could see, memories and stuff like that. It was really nice. I could feel them too.
Yeah. As you were talking,
and then I think I attached to it and then I slowly faded, but.
Welcome to being human.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Right. But yeah, I haven't had that, that there was something that locked, it was just like another moment of like, okay, I am still going the right direction. Like there's something, and the pain that I'm normally feeling is not the whole thing. Like there is actually another layer of existence that, makes this all worth whatever the fuck I'm doing,
Yep.
And I'm starting to feel like the inklings of that, I think, happening right now.
Yeah, I think you have one of my things, which is uh, buried trust issues, we'll call it.
Okay.
It's on the surface, I wouldn't say you seem like an untrusting person. You seem pretty discerning and grounded, right?
Yep. Yep.
But I think there's a part of you on the inside that is very thinking about it, worried about who to trust,
Oh, absolutely.
not wanting to trust by default.
Yes.
And your mind knows better, right?
Yeah.
Because there's certain things you need to trust, right?
So I've got good coping mechanisms, basically.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, like if you're getting on a roller coaster, you need to trust that it's been properly maintained and you're not going to fly out, right?
Yeah. Holy shit. I watched a video recently of like somebody recording a roller coaster car go by at a Six Flags, and this is a massive beam, modern stuff, and all the bolts had been gone, so the thing goes around and it just flexes like crazy, and it's like,
Oh my God.
Give me 1 second, I just gotta say goodbye.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, will you grab me one of the green smoothies before you come back? Okay, thanks.
What are you feeling there?
It's like a certain type of like out of control, like I'm missing something, I'm missing
Okay.
information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was to me, it felt like a panicky fear.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that's been coming a little bit more to the light over the last couple of weeks, is just how much I panic with people coming in or coming out, even if it's just a short, like, oh, we're going to hang out for an hour. Like there's a panic
Yeah.
with coming together because like, oh, I'm going to like, am I going to fuck it up? And then there's a panic separating because I'm like, oh, are they never coming back again or something like that? Like, did I fuck this up? And so I've been on the other side of that before, and it's really nice. Like I've felt just like so obviously like, oh, we're just people floating through the ether. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But then this is I think always been there, and it's just coming a little bit more light. Is that like I'm like, what does this mean? And like my mind knows, it's like, oh, she's struggled for the last 2 hours with her boss at work, and she's kind of pissed off, and I'm like, but did I do something? Like I must have fucked it up.
Yeah. There's a little bit of keeping your head above water.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, world and energy, you guys kind of stay down here and I'll just kind of stay above it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think with the woman with the massage, you made the decision to trust her, at least within a small context.
Mm-hmm.
And, right in.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're going a little slower, you can feel the anxiety and fear a little more. There's more texture to it.
Yeah. It's interesting is it doesn't feel like something I'm anxious or afraid of. It's like, oh, it's feeling versus not feeling. And like the feeling compared to not feeling is quite nice.
Yeah, when you're really feeling it, it's just another sensation.
Yeah. Which is so interesting because I would say this is a good, like, I'm like, oh, wow, I'm feeling something. This is a good thing. But then I'm sure, I look like I'm afraid. And so I just don't I haven't even been in feeling enough to even know the context of where I'm at within the realm of feeling.
Sure.
I'm just like, I'm here.
No, there's beauty in everything.
Yeah. Which is probably a good thing.
Yeah. There's beauty in fear for sure.
Yeah.
Is there beauty in despair? Absolutely.
Yeah. I've kind of wondered, it's just that like having been so numb for so long, is that there's probably quite a unique context on feeling to come into feeling from having been numb for so long. Whereas like most people judge one side of feeling or another.
Right. And they just accept it so normal and proper, they never question it or even aware of the judgment.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely a sense of keeping your head above things.
Okay.
And I know that's a Brent behavior too.
Yeah. That's probably why you do your bobblehead.
Could be. Could be
bobbing above the waves.
Yeah, just staying up above,
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. It looked exactly like that when you did it.
It's interesting. I see it less when you close your eyes.
The fear?
The whole pulling your head above.
Oh, like I go, like, do I go in when I close my eyes?
It feels like your body's more unified.
Okay.
Your head's more connected to your body. And
Wow, that's interesting.
you're able to do it with inner vision. Because one of the things that we talk about in level 4, because it's so common, is when people close their eyes, usually one of two things happens.
Uh-huh.
Either they're disconnecting and cutting off, or they're activating their inner vision. And it's subtle. And it's not hard to see, not for me. I mean, it's, immediately I can see which one it is.
Okay, yeah.
But there's a very different energy.
Hmm.
But you're activating your inner vision. When you close your eyes, I don't feel ignored.
Okay, yeah.
I feel you're simply seeing more by turning off some distraction. Right?
Yeah.
Right. It's like if you're trying to, hear the lyrics of a song, you might turn off the TV in the background.
Yes. Yeah.
Improving the signal to noise ratio. To use a term that I think everyone should know, but evidently they don't. Good. Yeah, your fingers are very much in the field. I can feel it in my body when you're rubbing your fingers. There's a lot there. You'd be a good magician. Ever do magic?
I haven't. It's been, I watched an hour clip of one of Mystery's, because I've heard so much of Mystery, but I've never actually read any of Mystery stuff or watched any of his stuff. Like just interpretations of him. And I watched one of his DVDs, or like an hour of somebody playing one of his DVDs on YouTube, basically. And I was like, there's quite a bit of what he's doing that is brilliant. And it's lost in it's lost in interpretations of his work. Right. I'm like, he spends so much time saying, build comfort. He's like, build comfort, build comfort. He's like, tiny little bit up front is attract, right? Be an attractive dude, hang out with cool people, do cool stuff. That's actually a really small part. Tiny little part on the end. Let yourself be sexual and seduce, and be seduced. It's like, you're not tricking anybody. Like, he doesn't even say it that way, but like people interpret it that way.
Right.
And he's like, the 80% in the middle is just build comfort with this person. Sometimes it can be as short as 2 hours. Sometimes it takes 20 hours, but you're spending time together, building comfort with each other.
Especially for a man, that's really important.
Yeah.
Because it's easy for us to forget how physically vulnerable and afraid a lot of women are.
Yeah.
Very easy.
Yeah. And it's like, he had a couple other weird theories that I were like, I don't think those are true, but like fundamentally, like the foundation of what he was teaching, I thought was absolutely brilliant. And then he's like, the touching, even touching people, it's just testing. It's just testing. Do we actually physically like each other? Mm-hmm. He's not trying to get like a response. He's not trying to trick a response into somebody else. Like, there's a tiny bit of that up front in the upfront stuff, which is, basically like, wear stuff to like get people to activate so that they do open up to you in the first place. Right. And then when you're doing that, and then when you're building comfort and touching, you're not actually even being sexual at all. It's not that you're not a sexual being. You're not afraid of your sexuality, but you're not trying to evoke sexuality. Right. You're just touching to see, like, do our bodies respond to each other? Yeah. Does her body follow mine? Because what's the point of us getting into a relationship if we're going to resist each other? So he's basically doing movement practice and testing movement on the person he's trying to hook up with or go on a date with. Yeah. And I'm like, this is brilliant. And like, people just don't see that or don't get that at all. Yeah.
And I love how the way you've articulated it, it's all in framed of, I'm just qualifying you to see if you would be a good fit for me.
That's exactly it.
It's not like I'm trying to sell you a used car.
Yeah.
Trying to get you to do this or make you do that. It's just, hey, is this a fit? Is this a fit? Is this a fit?
Yep. It's all, that's a beautiful way to put it. It's all qualification, which totally changes the frame from like, I'm trying to like seduce.
Right. I'm trying to get,
trick somebody
as many
bed.
bases as I can tonight. Right.
Yeah, no, it's like, let's qualify, keep qualifying over and over and over again. And then, if it works, then it's like, oh, we should hang out together.
And if you fail a qualifier, next.
Yeah. The one thing I didn't like though, that is like that he says up front, and he's like, you have to have an identity, which that I that I think goes a really dark direction, which is like if you just manufacture an identity versus identify your sense of self. Is two massively different things, right?
Yeah. I can see
Oh,
why he teaches that for a lot of people.
yeah.
It's helpful, but yes, there's big potential for the dark side.
Yeah, yeah. I think up front, like if you want to get results today, it's gonna work. Like you can get that done in a weekend. Like you can
Yeah.
get a guy to start presenting an identity in a weekend so that he can get some results, so that your coaching business keeps
Yeah.
going. But
I mean,
like in the long run,
that was one of the things I learned in media training. They go, you have to play a character when you're on TV.
mm,
If you just show up as you, unless you're already so famous, no one cares.
mm-hmm,
So it's just it's stupid and it's artificial and it puts you in a box.
mm-hmm,
But that's the game that's played. And so people that get on TV a lot, they've learned to build this character that is interesting in a way to the host and producers because they don't have no interest in getting to know you as a person. They don't give a shit, right?
yeah,
They just hope they get a lot of viewers today, right? Get renewed
right,
for next year, whatever, right?
right,
Okay, so yeah, your shoulder is it's definitely more mature. It still looks a little weaker, but it looks more solid.
yeah, yeah. I feel that.
You're also able to bring the energy in a little better.
Yeah.
This sort of your
Oh,
strongest when you're all the way out, and sort of the first half coming in. Not as strong in the middle, like halfway to the out.
yeah.
You notice how your arms ratchet a little bit coming out through there? It's very subtle. But it's like when
Oh,
you do
yep,
the ankles. Yeah.
yep. I can feel that.
That's just an indicator there's some spot in there that's not being fully felt. That's all.
Yeah,
And the goal is not to have perfectly smooth movement. I mean, that'd be nice, but even if we practice every day, we may not get there by the time we die, right?
yeah,
Just to find the obvious spots and do a little better,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
No, just like dating, right?
yeah,
It'd be nice if you became the perfect pickup artist, but for most guys, that's not going to happen. You just understand where you're at, find the biggest rough spots, do a little better, do a little better.
yeah.
Because somehow humans managed to keep populating the earth before we had dating coaches and mystery and pickup 101, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I ascribe much of
Well,
that to alcohol, but
yeah, that's another thing about like the stuff that he's saying. It's like when you get in your body and you feel your own drive and desire, those actions I think are quite natural
yes.
for a man's body to just, that's just what he's going to do.
Mhm.
Right. If you're present, you don't want, like you are going to be able to feel whether somebody's actually interested in you, whether you're actually compatible. So you're not just trying to get a result out of some body you've judged as beautiful, right?
Right.
And so you would do all of those things anyway. So it's like he's just helping us get back to a more natural pattern,
Yeah.
I think.
Through most of history, there was often longer courtships.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be considered really sexy if you saw her ankle or something, right?
Yeah.
Good. You seem a little warmer, a little happier.
Yeah.
You're a little
This
more
this is
you're more
this one
glowy.
I have a harder time feeling this one.
Yeah.
Like I can tell, but like this feeling doesn't register very dense for me, or suppose or something like that. So I tend to not know if I'm feeling when I'm feeling this. Like I'm like,
Yeah. I'll see if I can turn it up a little bit for you.
there you go. You get that.
Amplify it so you can sense it a little more. It's a lot of wisdom there. Yeah, I think there's a lot of warmth and gentleness. There may be some judgment that it's too feminine or too weak, or I don't know. But there's a little bit of, I wouldn't say embarrassment, but hesitation to share.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You're like, okay, it's okay doing it in my room alone with a healer, but
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
won't want my friends to see this. I'm not sure. Again, it's not embarrassment. That's not the right word.
This the thing that's coming up, so like I'm feeling the like, okay, what if I reach out to touch and share? And I feel very strong, like a sexual pulse.
Yeah.
And I was feeling this yesterday. I was walking on the treadmill and kind of meditating on the information beside me, and a crow landed on a tree right outside the window, and I felt the crow, and I felt it down here. Like I felt it, like I could feel the shape of the feathers, I could feel the movement, I could feel all his little feet grabs and stuff like that. But it was all, most of the feeling was registering through this area of my body, and I want to pull back from that because I'm like, what the heck? Why am I imaginatively like rubbing this crow against my? I'm not doing that, but like that's what the judgment is happening. That's what's happening. And so I don't know if that's just because I'm like more open or sensitive here than I am in other areas of my body, and so it seems like that's happening, or if that is just like a very specifically sensitive area of the body to sense movement and texture and things like that. And it's not necessarily sexual, but I'm kind of like worried.
Yeah, that I think is that's in the right arena.
Okay.
Then our culture has put so much baggage on that.
I
mean, I probably talked about how working with Carl a lot, we found the chakra that was most screwed up on most people is the second. Okay. And one of the big things that I have found is most people, especially Americans, Europeans are better at this. They can't make a distinction between sensual and sexual.
Okay, that makes sense then.
That we immediately go to sexuality. I see this in literature, spiritual literature. I see it in people's movement. I see it in, talks on YouTube, right? I'm I just want to grab them and shake them. There's a difference, people, right? There's a difference.
That's very interesting. I don't even know if Ryan fully understood the difference between sensual and sexual, because I'm remembering in his teaching, I don't remember being particularly sexually charged with some of the women, but he would say your sexual energy is too much right now. And I'm feeling something similar now. And I'm like, I don't think this is sexual. I think this is just how I'm sensing the environment.
Let me do a download on you. I want to download the difference between sensual and sexual. Okay.
Okay.
That may help. One of the things that I did with Carl a couple times was he'd have us like take a sweater or the carpet or the sofa and just very slowly run your fingers over it to have a sensual experience of it. And most of us had a reaction. We felt like we were naked.
Yep. That's exactly like when I feel that much, I feel super exposed.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's because the sensual
and inappropriate,
especially for a man.
Yeah.
How many sensual outlets do we have that are not sexual?
Sports.
Yeah, the answer is not a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the appeal of contact sports.
Yes.
Is touching other bodies. Again, doesn't mean you want to, go have anal sex with them, right? Right. It just means that it's something that we've been artificially cut off from.
Yeah.
I mean, what the Spartans used to do before they go into battle. Man.
It makes me think of why there's such it makes me think of why there's such a distortion with like, people are like, oh, the football stars, they're probably hiding some kind of gay thing. And it's like, no, they're not actually. They're trying to get a sensual outlet because you fucking don't.
Exactly.
Everyone's so judged for being sensual.
Right. Yeah. They have a sensual outlet. That's part of what made them stars.
Yeah.
Are some of them gay? I'm sure they are, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Undoubtedly a few of them are. My guess is it wouldn't be that much different than the regular population. But yes, they do come across as gay sometimes. I think because they're more in touch with the sensual aspect.
Mm-hmm.
I never did a lot of contact sports, but when I did, there was a certain grounding and almost pleasure to the contact.
Yep.
As long as it wasn't too painful or injurious, it felt good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. I started rolling jujitsu with Donaher's gym last week. And so I've done, 2 classes, and it's there's something deeply grounding about like just being, like we're doing our sparring practice.
Mhm.
And it's like, there's just a man behind me trying to choke me. And I'm like, this is kind of nice. This is very nice, actually. Like very, very grounding, very comforting, very like there's a deep sense of myself. Like there's a deep sense of peace that I started to be able to get access to. I mean, I felt like shit afterwards because an hour and a half of getting choked, because we were specifically doing all neck stuff that day. And so it's just kind of like headache central. But, even after that, I still felt like way more connected and grounded. So.
Yep. Not surprising.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, how do most untrained people, what do they think when they watch wrestling or jujitsu? They'll go, it looks like 2 guys humping.
Mm-hmm.
Why, again, we've totally lost the non-sexual sensual aspect of life.
Right.
And, part of how I choose my clothes, it isn't so much how they look, but more how they feel on me. That's a very woman kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's wrong for men to do it. It's just, that's not part of modern masculine culture.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to be dressed appropriately, to look good, to look powerful, blah, 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 right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Very few people stop to ask, how do you feel in these clothes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of fear around your neck. So yeah, that's probably just physiological, what you were feeling. Yeah, the fear is more in your shoulders, especially your right shoulder.
Yep. Ooh. Yep. Yep.
And there's a little bit in the lower body, kind of between the knee and the foot.
Yep. I have quite a bit of fear about my knees getting broken or twisted sideways. A lot going on there. I'm not totally sure what it is about. I think it must be the shoulders. It must just be worried about how loose they are and getting them pulled out of the socket.
Yeah. Your heart looks really strong.
Oh, nice.
So it doesn't look like there's much fear of heartbreak.
No. Yeah. I feel very comfortable with heartbreak.
Right. It'll happen, right?
Yeah.
If you fall in love, it will be heartbreak.
That's one thing I have to remember sometimes. It's like I've been in hundreds of relationships. So it's like compared to, I forget that sometimes, like people are so scared of heartbreak. And I'm like, what the fuck are you worried about? Like, this isn't a big deal. But then I'm like,
it'd be like people at the gym being afraid of getting sore.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to be serious about this unless you get over that, right? You're not going to get very far.
Exactly.
Good. But I like your it's lightweight Buddha kind of energy.
Nice.
There's a little more satisfaction, trying to put words on it.
Okay.
A little more confident in where you are, less needy.
Okay.
I don't need as much from the outside.
Yes. Okay. There's like no, that's nice. I can actually feel.
Yeah. There was a nice movement of energy there. Could you feel that?
Yeah. I felt like we had actually moved.
It was like you were spinning a wheel and it kept spinning a little after you let go of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels self-sustaining.
Yep.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And
like
Yep.
I can feel my own fingers moving through the energy, and it's like in my body. It's like there's something about like I can move the energy in my body. Yeah. Okay. It's definitely coming from the back. So it's like if I feel from what I've been doing, if I'm feeling mostly up the front, it's like things are too closed off to let it in. But then from opening up the back, it's like there's that's where the actual control panel is, or something like that, where I can actually access the touch and the movement. Yeah. But I can't see it. It's behind me. I'm like, so it's a little counterintuitive.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I just have to kind of wait for that to show up.
You should mount a rear view mirror on your head.
Yeah. It feels like that. It's like my control, I'm expecting like a control panel up here that I can push my buttons and levers, but it's back there. And
Yeah, the dead spot in the energy, it started wide first, then it got narrower. Now it's almost like a V shape.
And where is it?
It's like you've closed the gap, especially lower in your back.
Okay.
It's sort of
Yeah,
right
that feels,
about your,
yeah, that feels true.
solar plexus to heart. There's like a V that comes up
Yep.
to the bottom of your head.
That feels right. Nice.
So you've closed a lot of it already.
Oh yeah.
And there's a little bend to it too. So at the top, it's pulling
It
close
just,
together. Yeah, there's
funny.
like a,
as soon as I was feeling it, I was like, I started moving and I felt it start to go like this.
Yep.
And then you're saying the same shape. And I'm like, fuck, this is
that's
so cool.
exactly it. Yeah.
This is so cool.
Now, ultimately, I think everything
This
is
is how
geometry.
I know. This is how I know we're fucking psychic. Like it's like you just started saying a thing that I was noticing happening, and in exactly the same way I was experiencing it, and I'm like, okay.
It's crazy how much that happens
real...
with my students and regular clients.
Yeah,
like over and over and over, like all the time. I'll be thinking something, and they'll say those exact words.
Yep.
Right.
That's one of the things that's calmed me down in my work so much, is that if I sometimes just kind of wait and I'm like, you know what, the thought that came to me is not something I have to impart on my client.
Yes.
It just came to the space. Let's see if they notice it.
Yes.
And then I'll wait. And it's like my assumption has become, if they notice it on their own, they're going to learn it more clearly than if I try to teach it to them. Right.
Right. If they totally miss it and go off another way, you can bring them back.
Come back. Exactly. Right. So it's more of just like, I'm just here. I feel more just like I'm here to kind of guide the process, and keep us from getting lost and frantic, because that's literally the thing that I think I was working with a couple yesterday, and I could see where they were doing really well. And I was like, I don't need to comment on this. I'm just going to listen and keep moving. And then all of a sudden there was a place where they started getting afraid and locked up, and they couldn't comprehend. They started tying knots in their energy. And I was like, here's where I'm going to take over.
Right. That's your job.
Take a breath, and so that they could just like take a breath and see what was actually there. And then the wisdom is already here.
It is funny. One of the hard things I had to learn as a software manager was I could look at almost any problem someone had and have a sense of how to solve it.
Yeah.
What I found was that's not the best approach. The best approach is see the solution, but step back and give them the space to see if they can find it first. And only if they're struggling do you step in and tell them what to do.
Yeah.
Because I was always getting 3 steps ahead of everyone. Well, you're going to do this, and then you're going to have this problem. Then you do this, and they get resentful of me.
Yeah.
Why are you resenting me? I'm helping you do your job. This is how we make money, right? Yeah. But now I get it. It's not that simple, right?
Yep.
I'm triggering their childhood stuff and their insecurity and things about authority, blah blah blah, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's and NAMASTE told me that to be a good coach healer is more listening than talking.
Yep.
Because the session is there for your client to say whatever they need to say, right? Your job is to shut up until they need you to direct them.
Yeah.
Notice that feminine and the masculine, right?
Right. And there's something about just creating the space and the energy of this is all okay, actually allows their nervous system to just go a little chaotic and then relax. And then in the chaos, relax, they impart themselves with the wisdom that's already there.
There's your comfort and safety right there.
Yeah. Nice.
And it's amazing how people just spontaneously start to heal themselves when you help them tap into that.
Yeah.
Especially women and men that have had dysfunctional childhoods. Because we still have that weak, vulnerable part of ourselves. We don't realize our size and strength and presence, right?
Yep.
Many times you still feel like that scared little boy, so do I.
Yeah. This is very true.
Yeah. And other people don't see that. They see Nick, right? Powerful, confident, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
Kicking ass.
Yeah.
Good. But I like how you're feeling the inner light, so to speak. Can you notice how you're looking in and you're getting what you need from there?
Yeah.
And it's okay to get it from the outside too, right?
Yeah.
If you're thirsty, go get some water. Cool.
Yes.
But the outside can't do this, can it?
Oh, not like this. Holy
Nope.
shit.
Sex won't do it on its own. Drugs, money.
Yeah. Yeah, this is it's like the bones in my back, and like they're filling with this like really nice warm fluid, and
Yep.
it's like it's dense and it's supportive.
Yep.
And yeah, there's nothing else that does this.
Yeah, it was funny. It was just about an hour before Jazzy died, and everything went to hell. It was the first time in years I was really feeling good in my body. I was like walking and moving. I'm like, this is so neat. Wow. Wow, maybe I'm making a breakthrough. Maybe I'm moving ahead. And then, like, okay, Brent, little step forward. Then we catapult you back.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Sorry,
That's
Brent.
not your fault. You didn't do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just take it slow and gentle. Because there are all sorts of belief systems and things we activate when we find that inner peace.
Yeah.
All sorts of Christian stuff, right? There was a time when they would burn you with the stake for that.
For finding inner peace?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What?
You just have to lie and say you found it through Jesus.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right.
So
Just like
as long as it fits their narrative, it's like a same feeling. Just make sure it's their narrative.
Exactly.
It's okay.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
There was a thing in the news that there was a boy that when he was 6, car accident, he was dead for 8 minutes or something. And he had this whole account of, I died and saw God. And basically what he said perfectly matched Christian theology.
Yeah.
So, of course, all the Christians were all over it. They wrote a series of books and sold millions of copies and blah, 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 right? And it was in the news recently. Now I think he's 19 or 20. And he's like, yeah, I made it all up. My parents told me to say that just so we could make money. Because it was funny. Because when I had read the account of it, I'm like, this sounds suspiciously like Christian theology, like to the letter, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, if you turned in one of Shakespeare's poems as your own, right? The teacher would be like, it's odd that you channeled the exact same words as Shakespeare, right? Yeah. Really? You came up with this on your own? Yup. All on my own. Well, that's a weird coincidence. Yeah.
Yeah. Very weird coincidence.
But yeah, if you healed someone, even unintentionally, unless you wrapped it in Christian mythology and said Christ came and all that, they would kill you for it. So, I mean, not everywhere all the time, but there were times.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that the Pilgrims left England to get religious liberty. No, it was the exact opposite. They left England because they wanted to impose a theocracy on England and force people to adhere to their religious beliefs.
Oh shit!
And so they came to America, the original Pilgrims, because they could build a theocracy there.
I got it. Yeah.
Right. That England still had some layers of separation of church and state. Wasn't perfect. But the mainstream English person was like, no, we're not building a theocracy here. I don't want to live in your extremist world, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, they left not for religious liberty, but because it allowed them to impose their views on everyone through force of law. Right. So
it makes sense. It sounds very human.
It is awesome. Well, I gotta.
Will you send me this recording? I really want to watch this one.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Like, would you be able to send it today?